We have multiple major free agency updates surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays to go over today, as multiple new reports have dropped revealing some very interesting details surrounding the Jays' plans, as well as a huge Corbin Burnes update that could really change the outlook of the Jays' pursuit of the star pitcher. We're going to break down that, discuss the reports, and what this means going forward. We also have an update surrounding Teoscar Hernandez, so tons of things to go over today, and a very interesting stat surrounding how well the Blue Jays have done so far this offseason. So stay tuned for all that in this episode, folks. But before we get into it, quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. We are less than 200 subscribers away from 15,000. Our goal is to hit it by the end of the year. So we have about 4 days left. If you want to help us towards that goal, scroll down, see if you're not subscribed. About 70% of you who are watching aren't. And if you aren't, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to myself and Peter if you could do that. And thank you guys for your support all year. We got you covered all the way into 2025. And speaking of 2025, a lot of moves are going to be happening once the new year flips over. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of reports to go over today, so buckle in. We're going to start with this one from Jon Heyman. There's some from Mark Feinsand. There's a bunch of different things here. As for Burnes, who entered the offseason, let's dive right into it. As for Burnes, who entered the offseason as the free agent, the best free agent starting pitcher, the Giants and Jays have been considered the two most likely landing spots. San Francisco has had an offer on the table, but sources have indicated that the Giants may be getting impatient, prompting them to consider other ways to improve the club via free agency. Even after extending Chapman and Adames, the Giants could look to add another bat with Alonso, Santander, Profar, Teoscar among those potential options. So a couple of good things and a bit of a scary thing there in the second paragraph, but I want to start with this. This is actually huge for the Jays, and here's the reason why. You read the last sentence of that first paragraph where it says, sources have indicated the Giants are getting impatient, prompting them to consider other ways to improve the club via free agency. So we've known that it's really been between the Giants and the Jays for the past, weeks since Soto signed, all these different things. And now the question is, who is going to, I guess, break first? We know his hometown is California. He wants to go to the San Francisco Giants, but clearly they aren't offering enough money. And at this point, Buster Posey is fed up with it and wants to start pursuing other options. What that means is that the Jays offer that's on the table, which has been rumored to be about $245 million or so, is kind of it's obviously the highest offer, but it's looking more and more likely for the Toronto Blue Jays. And we initially thought that the longer this, drags out, the more likely he is to go to the Giants. But now, after this report, the longer this drags out, the better it is for the Toronto Blue Jays, because you look at it, and if the Giants are going to pull their offer and go, try to find other ways to improve their club, it means they're not confident in landing Burnes, or they don't want to up the value of the offer to what the Blue Jays have, which means ultimately it's very good for the Toronto Blue Jays. Very good news. They are now probably favorites to land Corbin Burnes, depending on what happens with all of these other teams, but he is seeking $245 million, and I think the Jays have an offer around that at 7 years on the table. But the question now is, do they actually, will Burnes finally bite the bullet and say, hey, okay, I'll come to Toronto? Because he could have, assuming what we were hearing is true regarding the offers, he could have been a Toronto Blue Jay a very long time ago. And again, that's what Feinsand says, has had an offer on the table, and sources have indicated that the Giants may be becoming impatient and maybe getting impatient, prompting them to consider other ways to improve the club. So, huge, big news for the Toronto Blue Jays. And we finally got an update on Corbin Burnes. It's been quiet, obviously, the holiday season. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed that. But now that they have other ways to kind of, if they're pursuing other options, they could maybe go out, the Giants that is, and sign someone else that takes away some of their money, which then leaves Corbin Burnes open for the Jays. So it is a very encouraging free agency update. And it's still pretty quiet on the Jays front, aside from the fact that they are still among the two favorites to land Corbin Burnes, even though the Giants seem to be pivoting in other directions. But the bad part about this is, of course, at the end here, is that they're still looking to sign, Santander or Teoscar Hernandez or Jurickson Profar, all of which, specifically Teo and Santander, are high on the Jays list. And I think Santander at this point is going to become a Blue Jay. That is my prediction. It could be Teoscar as well, one of those two, like I've been saying all offseason long. But maybe the Giants go in, they snag one of them, and then the Jays go out and get Corbin Burnes, which would be an interesting kind of scenario, even though they still desperately need a hitter. And then we had Jon Heyman come out and give an update regarding Burnes, saying one of the game's most dynamic and durable starters surely has received big offers, but apparently none to his liking so far. The Jays and Giants have been, prominently connected to Corbin Burnes, who should land a deal above the 218 that Free got. Of course, and the agents got Boras. The Red Sox still have their Juan Soto money, but would they go for a third starter? So again, just once again, linking the Jays to Corbin Burnes and saying that he hasn't received an offer that is up to his standard yet, or at the very least that he's liked from a team that he was willing to go to. Because I think he thought the Giants were probably going to give him the amount of money he was looking for. Scott Boras is playing hardball. The Jays also have that Scott Boras connection through, bidding for Shohei Ohtani missing out, bidding for Juan Soto and missing out. And we've seen Shai Davidi, we've seen Ben Nicholson-Smith, all these guys come out and say, by bidding on these guys, you're developing a connection and a positive relationship with Scott Boras, and maybe that will help him or help them here. And I mean, he's coming off of almost 3 200-inning seasons in a row. Like, he's as durable as they come. He would fit this team well. We've been speaking ad nauseum about how perfect he would be for this team, even at the $245 million that he's projected and rumored to get. I think if you're the Jays, you just go for it at this point, especially now that the Giants are starting to linger a little bit and starting to kind of waver at the idea of giving him that $245 million, which is well above what we all initially thought he was going to get coming into the offseason. If you're the Jays, this is your chance. Everything is lining up perfectly for you. Other teams are dropping out. A lot of the big teams aren't pursuing players like this anymore. So if you go out, you get Burns, then you just, you get one of Teoscar or Santander, you're looking a A-plus offseason, a very good team. They have the opportunity. It's a matter of A, is the player willing to come to Toronto? Because that's something that always has to be considered first. But B, will they be willing to go above and beyond their line? And obviously we know the Jays operate within a line. They have a line, the max amount of money they're willing to pay for a specific player, and they never really go above that unless it's a special Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani case. In this case, if you're Corbin Burns, you got to go above that line. You got to go above your however many $25 million payroll left that you have. Go for it, make the splash, and make Jays fans happy. But not only make Jays fans happy, make the team good again, which will allow you to compete and extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And surrounding Teo, he told me 1,000% he wanted to return to the Dodgers, and who wouldn't? But the Red Sox and his old Jays and Mariners are giving him something to think about. A great bat and a terrific clubhouse guy. Should capitalize on his huge year in LA. I think ultimately he's going to become either a Jay or a Dodger, maybe a Red Sox as well. But I think the Red Sox are kind of starting to waver a little bit. They've had a great offseason, a very sneaky good offseason. And ultimately, things are lining up perfectly for the Jays. Now, if they don't go out and pounce, this is not like at last offseason where they missed out on Ohtani. They had to settle for Justin Turner, Kevin Kiermaier, all these guys, IKF. You have so many great options available. Other teams are starting to fall out. Use your corporation, Rogers, all the money you have, and just you're not spending $1 billion Canadian. You're spending $245 million on a very good player, and then $100 million probably on Santander. Make that push, do it, and make Jays fans happy. And ultimately, the team needs it, because if not, they're in the middle of no man land with 2 of your star players being unrestricted free agents after next season, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. directly calling out the front office. But to give some positive to the front office, Brooksgate dropped an estimate of how much 2025 value each team has added and lost so far this offseason. I know it's hard to read there. I will read it out for you. So you can see the Jays have 4, that is projected F4 added, and then the second column is projected F4 loss, which is 0.5. So the Jays are according to F4, the 3rd best team this offseason when it comes to adding WAR. Now, again, WAR is not a be-all, end-all stat, but basically, Andres Gimenez plus Jimmy Garcia is going to give you 4 WAR, and they've only lost 0.5 WAR and letting, Romano go and Spencer Horwitz go. So you can see the Andres effect. This kind of blew up. Ultimately, I think a lot of Jays fans are underestimating how good Andres Gimenez is. They've already added, according to this, 3.5 WAR alongside last year. And this is not to say that this is enough at all. They need to make more moves. 100%, absolutely, it needs to happen. Because you can see the Angels there are number 1, and they've just made a bunch of kind of like mid moves. But if you add that 4 WAR from Gimenez, and then you go out and you get Corbin Burns, another perennial 3 to 4 WAR player, upwards of 5, and then you go out and you get one more guy like Santander can give you 2 to 3 WAR, you're looking at a very good, at least statistically. And the reason I'm speaking it like this way and speaking in this verbiage is because that's exactly how Ross Atkins and they think about statistics, advanced analytics, all these things. So if you want to go that path, you can see why they made the Andres Gimenez trade, because Horwitz wasn't projected for a very good F4, and neither was Jordan Romano. Go out, make the moves, get your team completely overhauled, and we can head into 2025. Very excited to watch Jays baseball again. But let me know down below what your thoughts are on this. A ton of news is coming out, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and let us know down below. Would you spend that extra money for Corbin Burns? It's all lining up perfectly for the Jays. They just have to strike. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.